You see, words do matter. And the way you tell a story is so much as important as the story itself.
I never really thought that I would see and have confirmed pictures of terrorists beheading children.
There's a line in the news that we consume, and it is so much damaging, just like the rockets hitting Gaza.
Do you care about the babies that were beheaded?
No,
the babies
they were never beheaded. That was a made-up story.
How do you know?
Not true.
What separates Israel, the United States, and other democracies is our respect for international law.
Does that mean starve the Palestinian people?
There is a hysteria in the world right now, and it is a problem. Have you noticed that the news coming out of Gaza on Western media?
They are terrorists.
Civilians as human shield.
Accept the right of Israel to exist.
Has a different version of facts on the ground. I mean, stories you get on your phone.
Hundreds of thousands of people are in tents.
Did you know that a whole city is being wiped off the face of the earth right now?
And when Israel says something,
the Israeli military says Hamas.
As Israel says it targeted tunnels and weapons manufacturing sites.
Israel says
it becomes the news.
Israeli authorities say.
The Israelis say.
Israel says.
Israel's defense forces saying.
Israel saying. That's according to the Israeli military.
Israel says. Everything Israel says has no fact-checking, no balancing of the story by hearing all the sides.
My view is one side is guilty, and it's not Israel.
This type of coverage blurred the true facts of the Israel-Palestine conflict for many years.
Genocide supporters, you are not welcome here. Genocide supporters.
We want to find out why and how does the Western media do this. Welcome to the show.
We're in a religious war here.
Finish them. Finish them.
Let me tell you a short story. You see, growing up, I used to love watching the news. My dad and I would sit in the living room all evening watching the same version of news from different channels. He never tended to tell me why he would prefer watching the news from different channels, but after studying mass communication and doing some practice in journalism, I tend to realize that the news from different channels are quite different and they will never be the same. The language used is picked for different reasons.
I don't think there's any way Israel can be expected to coexist or find some diplomatic off-ramp with these savages.
The Israeli military has said its fighter jets, helicopters and artillery have struck over 500 targets overnight in Gaza.
Depending on what platform you get your news from, you could either be getting the full truths, balanced and objective report, or maybe a sensational and biased report. The information war has been with us for ages, but we seem to forget how catastrophic it could be, especially when mass media is being deployed to fight it.
That regime pledged to reveal and destroy all its weapons of mass destruction.
Unsteadying efforts to develop weapons of mass destruction.
There are prohibited weapons of mass destruction.
Weapons of mass destruction.
Bottom line, there were no weapons of mass destruction.
The same could be said for the war in Gaza.
If you're Americans and want to compare this to something in American history, then this could be a 9/11 and a Pearl Harbor wrapped into one.
When it comes to the Israeli-Hamas war in Gaza, the battle for public opinion is greater than usual. And you can see this in the reporting language of mainstream media.
They need to eliminate them, then they can figure out what to do with the land and then figure out what to do with the land.
They focus more on Palestinian reaction and less of Israelis' action. For example, it is called tension when Israeli military beats Palestinian worshippers in the mosques.
This was at the Damascus gate into Jerusalem's old city.
And it's called violent clashes if Palestinians defend themselves in response.
A frenzy of violence at one of Jerusalem's holiest sites, threatening to ignite the region.
The illegal settlements are called neighborhood, and the West Bank is not occupied, but contested. It is terrorism when Palestinians throw stones at Israeli soldiers.
Throwing stones at Israeli soldiers as part of a group of Palestinians. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that his security forces would use what he called all necessary means and methods in the fight against terrorism.
It is dispute if Israeli settlers attack Palestinian farmers and take their homes. Here's the funny one. Palestinians never get killed. They simply die or receive bullets. And the big one, it is called unprovoked.
This is a horrific attack. It's unprovoked.
The United States unequivocally condemns the unprovoked attacks by Hamas.
Unprovoked attack.
My thoughts were that we need to support Israel. No ands, ifs, or buts. This was an unprovoked attack.
The deliberate use of the word unprovoked is to overlook factors that brought us to this stage. Issues like constant discrimination, the inhuman policies against Palestinians. This is not to make an excuse for the Hamas atrocities committed on October 7.
An unprecedented military operation by Hamas and a colossal failure of Israeli intelligence.
You had all these gunmen entering up to 22 different locations outside the Gaza Strip.
Israel says hundreds of its citizens have been killed and many more injured.
But though Israel didn't start this war, Israel will finish it.
Just as the United Nations Secretary Antonio Guterres stands, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict didn't just occur in a vacuum. And to understand it, you must be willing to take in the truth, but not just the truth, the whole truth, which is what the media is supposed to do. But some mainstream media have been caught up in the web of the information war.
If the international media is objective, it serves Hamas. If it just shows both sides, it serves Hamas.
The only reason why mainstream mass media would control the narrative that comes out of Gaza is to shape public opinion.
Thousands of people gathered on the National Mall today for what organizers are calling the largest gathering of Jewish people in modern history.
Amazing to see all these people gathered today. It was a march for Israel.
And in the information war, whoever controls public opinion controls the war.
We are also seeing these multiple videos of very angry crowds over there storming an airport in Dagestan, in this Russian Republic, after the arrival of a flight from Tel Aviv.
To understand why, you must first go back to the year Israel was created, in the year 14th May 1948. You see, it was the end of the Second World War, and the Allied powers have neutralized Hitler and saved the Jewish people from the horrors of the Holocaust. Britain controlled this region and had promised to find a home for the Jewish people. But you see, the problem here is this region has 80% of Palestinians living in it and few Jewish settlers. He had to hand over this problem to the newly United Nations.
And finally, a momentous decision to partition the Holy Land's 10,000 square miles.
What the United Nations did was to partition this place. Immediately they did that, the British handed off with a different idea, empowering the Zionists, the Jewish, to take weapons that they left behind. And the Jewish people, the Zionists, empowered more militias to displace more Palestinians from their homes and take their lands. And this is how the first Nakba, the uprising of the Palestinian people, began. This is not the real full truth, right? It's not the end of the truth, because if you really want to understand this war, you still have to go back, because the Jewish people will tell you another side of the story, that biblically they own the entire space, and somehow Israel will rise again, a quote from the Bible, which they all carry sacred, and Jerusalem belongs to them.
So let me be clear about what I believe. I stand with Israel because of our shared values, which are so fundamental to the founding of both our nations.
The United States sees Israel as an extension of itself. I mean, the United States was created by occupation. Israel was also created by occupation. And the values of the United States is in the values of Israel. So having a great, strong democratic power in the Middle East explains why the United States for so many years have been supporting Israel. And it's not surprising to see that the IDF is the second biggest military in the world after the United States. And another reason why the United States supports Israel strongly is because situations where the United States have to interfere in the Middle East and cannot do that with approval of Congress, They now need an ally that can do that on their behalf. So to conclude this, the media bias could also be found in a stark contrast with the war in Ukraine. In this situation, the entire guideline for reporting is switched opposite. Here, the official media language is Russia is seen as the aggressor.
War crimes, targeted attacks on civilian infrastructure with a clear aim to cut off men, women, children of water, electricity and heating with the winter coming. These are acts of pure terror.
אנחנו מטילים מצור מוחלט על העיר עזה. אין חשמל, אין מזון, אין מים, אין דלק. הכל סגור. אנחנו נלחמים בחיות אדם ואנחנו נוהגים בהתאם.
The information war is a battle for the hearts and minds, and whoever controls the media narrative controls public perception, and whoever controls public perception can win the war without boots on the ground. This is why politicians will rather use the mass media to fight the information war. But as reporters, as journalists, it is our duty to be the last line of defense to truth, to speak truth to power, not just where it suits us, but to be objective at all times. We are the gatekeepers of public opinion. Who much is given, much is expected. We should use this power wisely, because information has real-life consequences. When it's accurate, it could be a lifesaver and a peacemaker. When it's the other way around, it could be catastrophic. Thank you very much for watching today's video. Please like and subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this. Bye.